The Denver Broncos are in the market for a quarterback, chief among them Kirk Cousins. The team will reportedly meet with Cousins' agent here at the Combine. It's the same agent who happens to represent Trevor Siemian, who would then be a candidate to be traded or released. John Elway certainly hit the jackpot in free agency nearly 6 years ago when he snagged Peyton Manning via free agency. He showed he still had plenty left in the tank. All other Broncos starting quarterbacks have not nearly come close to matching Manning's success. Last year, the Broncos started 3 different quarterbacks in a season for the first time since 2003.
And I think we're going to explore all options in free agency and see where that goes. And obviously, we get the 5th pick in the draft too, so that'll all play into it. So we'll continue to, to look at all the options out there when it comes to quarterback. I'm going to swing. Believe me, I'm not done swinging and missing. So look, misses don't bother me. We just got to figure out a way to get it right. So that's what we're working on.
We played 3 quarterbacks last year. No one wants to do that. You want one guy and one guy only. Obviously, if someone gets injured, you want to have a capable backup. But you don't want to play 3 quarterbacks. So I think all of us involved, we'll get better, by not playing 3 quarterbacks. We have to play better at the quarterback position. We want to get better.
So, look, we'll be talking about those swings and misses until Denver has a starting quarterback that they're happy with and that's solidified. Adam, it seems there's a ways to go. Will this happen via draft, via free agency? What's the speculation?
Well, you heard John there talking about the fact that this team is going to be aggressive in free agency. He said they would consider all quarterbacks, which is an acknowledgement, essentially, that they're going to make a run at Kirk Cousins. Now, I think it's going to be difficult to pry him loose from a team like the New York Jets that has more cap space than the Broncos do, and the Minnesota Vikings that have a better situation, a more plug-and-play right-now situation than the Broncos do. But John Elway can be very persuasive. We saw that with Peyton Manning, and I think they'll take a run at Kirk Cousins to see if they can entice him to come to Denver. If they cannot get Cousins, then I think the Broncos would hope that Kirk Cousins winds up in Minnesota because Case Keenum would be free, and Case Keenum then would be in play in Denver. The Broncos have been interested in Keenum before. This could be another time. Keep in mind, Gary Kubiak is in Denver's front office. He was responsible for bringing Case Keenum to Houston in the past. Keenum will be the backup plan, but if Kirk Cousins goes to New York, I think Case Keenum's back in Minnesota, and that leaves Denver, I think, sitting in the spot that it is, looking at a quarterback at number 5 in the draft.
Yeah, I think Bill alluded to it yesterday. The fact that free agency right now has to play itself out first before really we can even tell what any of these guys are going to do, especially at quarterback when it comes to the draft. Because listen to those scenarios he just played out. There's just multiple that right now the only answer you really can give is we're going to explore all options. Because right now all options are open. Free agency hasn't even started yet. So we'll just see.
No, Bill, we know GMs or team presidents, whoever, aren't always exactly candid, but I think in this case, he's telling the truth. I mean, they really are, to Lewis's point, going to look at all the options.
Well, it's an open book.
Yeah. I mean,
at 5, they sit in a position where if let's assume they do not get the answer in free agency, then they sit in a position where they have enough wherewithal to jump up a couple of spots and get the quarterback they like. If they sit there at 5, they're probably going to get the 3rd or 4th quarterback, whoever that may be. And it may well be the guy they like. So there's a lot of maneuvering room there. They're in great shape as opposed to Arizona, who's at 15. They're in not so good shape.
And keep in mind, the Broncos coach is coaching the Senior Bowl, and they requested to coach Baker Mayfield and Josh Allen. So they got an up-close look at those guys. I do think in a perfect world that the Broncos will find their quarterback in free agency, whether it's Kirk Cousins or Case Keenum. But if they don't, that's where it gets interesting, and that's where we see the jockeying, and that's where maybe the Indianapolis pick at number 3 comes into play, or Denver could choose to sit where it is at 5 and pick the best quarterback remaining there.
And such a challenge for teams to have to prepare for both scenarios, because to your point, in a perfect world, yes, but it's not always a perfect world. And you have to be prepared.
This is what you prepare for. The free agency and the draft are married. You treat them as one continuous personnel operation.
And somewhere in that mix, there has to be a quarterback for the Denver Broncos. Josina Anderson joins us now with more from Denver. And let's just start, Josina, with where things stand in terms of Chris Harris.
Well, Wendy, right now, Chris Harris has a $1 million option bonus that is due 5 days before the start of the new league year. That puts that at March 9th. There is also another option in his contract for 2019 that is not tied to cash. But what those deadlines in his contract illuminate is what Harris is currently making, averaging $8.5 million a year. For context, Josh Norman is averaging $15 million a year. So it seems like a good time to address his contract, particularly when Chris Harris is one of 2 cornerbacks right now who have had multiple interceptions in each of the last 6 seasons, and there's only been 100-yard receiver when he's been playing in 2 years. But when I inquired to find out how a pay raise would be received, it seemed like timing was of the essence. Didn't seem like right now would be the appropriate time. However, I was told they can address his compensation moving forward if he continues to play at a high level.
Josina, Aqib Talib with a $12 million cap hit this year. What do the Broncos plan to do with Talib?
Well, Aqib Talib is 32 years old. However, he's been to 5 consecutive Pro Bowls. But the reality is that his 2018 cap number is $12 million. His dead cap number is $1 million, which means that the Broncos could save $11 by cutting him. But my understanding is that there's not this big comfort right now with paying a 30-plus-year-old cornerback that type of money. And Talib seems to understand his situation when he tweeted last night, "Who is coming to get me?" So a little bit of a sensitive situation, but at the same time, guys, I was told it's not a complete foregone conclusion that he will be gone, with the source telling me, listen, if you can't find better, then you don't do that, because the idea is to get better and not worse. Wendy, back.